Welcome to the Monkey Do podcast, where you can show off your writing successes and we can see what we can do to be like you. Today we have Alex. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, hello. Well, my name is Alejandra Baca, but you can call me Alex. And I am a Pinterest expert. I am also a wedding blogger, and that's how I started my journey with Pinterest because my wedding blog had so much success on Pinterest that everybody started asking me, how do you do it? Teach me. So I start teaching. I start also managing a few accounts, and I also do consulting. So now I'm the Pinterest expert.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you to come teach us a little bit today. I don't know a ton about Pinterest, so I'm really excited to dive in. I've got a few pins here on the screen. You should be able to see that right now. And these are some pins that you sent over to me. And I'm in control of the screen, so just let me know to click around or scroll around or anything. But tell me about these pins. What was your goal for these? Were they successful?
These were super successful. They are some of the most successful pins that I had in the last few months. And the good thing about this is this one was actually published probably like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Pinterest is so great for publishers and content creators in general, that your content can be evergreen, and if you have success, that pin will continue bringing traffic to your website. So yeah,
That is awesome. I'll just flip through these other pins that you gave me as well, and you can tell me a little bit about them. The other three I think are a little bit more recent, right?
yes, they're a little bit more recent. The one that you feature first as the oldest one, this one is a little bit more recent. It probably doesn't have a year yet, but a few months. The first one that you have on the left side column, the one at the very top, that is very recent. That was actually featured probably like 3 months ago. And I said recent because, again, Pinterest is so evergreen that I still have pins from 2015 that are performing well. So
Wow.
3 months is really like fresh content for Pinterest.
Mm-hmm. How do you measure the success of your pins?
It really depends on your goals. For instance, for my clients, some of my clients, what they want is for their pins to uh, convert. So sending traffic is great. That's my goal with my blog, sending traffic to my blog. But for some of my clients, the traffic is not so important, but the right kind of traffic. So trying to get clicks on the pins, but clicks from the right people, that's the most important thing. And then I have other clients that what they really want is the exposure. So the impressions are really what they're looking for. For me in particular, for my wedding blog, how I measure it is the traffic that it creates to my blog, because
Okay.
that's where my money comes from.
Yeah. So that's going to be measured in the link clicks that we see right up here. Is that correct? Yeah. Um, so did you have any particular goals for any of these four that we're going to look at today?
In general, for those four, the goal for all of them were creating links. That's my ultimate goal. Clicks on the links are the ultimate goal, but I am not so worried about the impressions, but I'm always worried about the saves. So the more people share it, obviously the more clicks we're gonna have. So that's very important. Sometimes pins they get a lot of impressions, but they don't get shared by a lot of people, and we don't get that many clicks. So shares or saves and clicks is what I really worry about.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's go through them one by one. And so starting with this Berta wedding dresses post, pin rather, tell me why do you think this was so successful? What are some of the things that you can see?
These one was so successful. I think what I really concentrate when I'm creating blog posts and when I'm creating pins is the descriptions. And on the descriptions of the pins, I usually use trending words. So I go on Pinterest and see what words or keywords are trending, and I try to use that on my captions on the pins. So I remember when I created this pin, Blink wedding dresses was trending. So I was like, oh, I have a collection that I can post right now that has Blink wedding dresses. So let me do that real quick, put it together in the next day or so. I put the blog post together, created the pin, and used Blink in the description, and it totally worked.
Nice. Yes. One of the things that I noticed on this pin was that you say wedding dresses
Mhm.
3 times plus then again in your actual Belle the magazine wedding dresses and decorations. So it's there 4 times right here.
Yes.
And yet it doesn't feel like you're just writing to the bots. This is no wish description. If you know those that are, the dresses, gowns, bridal, wedding, bride, dress. Kind of things. Like you're clearly not ready for that, and yet you've beautifully integrated these keywords. Yeah, awesome job there. Anything else that you want to bring out about this one, or do you move on to the
Um, this one and the other ones as well. I think for this one, I was already able, because this is a new feature that Pinterest just introduced to my account. It had introduced it to other accounts previously, but they recently introduced to my account that I can actually alter the, the title of the pin.
mm,
And um, I didn't alter the title of this pin. I left it as it is on my blog post. Just to create consistency, I like to do that, but I like to point out that for some of my clients, when I do the titles, I do something more specific. I don't necessarily go with their blog post, or if the pin goes to their wedding galleries. I have a lot of clients that are in the wedding industry, so on their galleries or their portfolios, I usually alter the titles to create more clicks. And the titles usually are kind of like a call of action without saying click.
yeah.
And I want for the for the Pinterest user to have a preview of what they can see after they click on that photo. And the titles now are appearing on the home feed. When you go to your Pinterest home feed,
I've
you can
noticed that.
every single pin underneath. So that's very important. And I like to leave the titles for my blog posts just as they are, because that gives a perfect preview of what the user will find when they click on it. But for other type of Pinterest content creators, leaving the blog post or the title of that page not necessarily is the best thing. But in this case, it works out.
Perfect. All right. I'm gonna click over to this next one.
Awesome.
Oh, and I forgot to do it on the previous one, but I'm just going to go through and read the title, and in case it's not very readable, it does get small. So, Foodie Romance, Napa-inspired elegant wedding, Belle the magazine. With only great food, great music, and great wine on their wish list, these foodies delivered on all fronts with a gorgeous Napa-inspired wedding. Okay,
Yeah.
tell us about this one.
So this one is not necessarily, this is actually not the Pinterest description. This is the caption that Pinterest is pulling from the blog post. And this is a very good point, because I try to include on the first sentence of every single blog post a little description of what they can encounter again on the blog post if they come from Pinterest.
Mhm.
So since Pinterest pulls out that description, I try to include keywords, and I try to include a little bit of the preview of what they will see when they click on the pin. In this case, I couldn't alter the title yet. So as you can see, the title probably doesn't really work for this particular pin. I would have put something different, maybe take out Foodie Romance, maybe just put Napa inspired elegant wedding, or something regarding the colors. I will look honestly for keywords that were trending on Pinterest and alter the text to make more sense of the SEO, but also what the user will find on the blog post.
You know, that's kind of funny that you say that specifically on this post, because this is the one that I had highlighted and pulled out, where this title here, this bold title, um, it's not letting me select the text. There we go. Okay, so the bold title here, every single word counts. And so I thought it was a great title. It
Yes.
may not, on the one hand, it may not be the absolute strongest from like an SEO from what broad people are
Hmm.
searching. On the other hand, niche people are going to
Yeah.
find this and go, "Oh, that is exactly what I need," and
Yes.
they're going to click through. Right? The
Yeah.
the weakest word in this title is the word "the," because it's kind of a throwaway word, but that's the title of your blog, your magazine, Bell the magazine. And so that actually ends up being kind of vital because it's like you said, it's setting expectations. When they click over and see that they're at Bell the magazine, it's like, okay, yeah, you haven't clickbaited me. This is exactly what I was expecting, and it helps to solidify for future. If they see more Bell the magazine pins, they're going to be more likely to click it because they know that you're going to deliver because you write awesome blog posts.
Yeah.
And then the second least, the second word outside of your magazine title that's kind of weak maybe is Napa, right? Like it's a specific location, not necessarily something that a lot of people are searching. But again, one, the people who are searching for Napa weddings, they're going to find this, right? It's going to be right there. And then on the other hand, even those broad searches, when people are just saying, elegant wedding, and they're searching for that, when they see something like Napa inspired foodie romance, kind of these niche things, that's going to stand out. It's not just another elegant wedding. And then you read that description, that first line with the great food, great music. Okay, like this is really promising. This is a really promising post. Um, I thought this was excellent across the board.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like. I actually really like this wedding in general. And I love the title we used. I just thought with a bouquet, maybe it would be another title that I would choose
Right.
because there's so many beautiful photos that I was like, oh, maybe with a bouquet I would use something. But I mean, it worked out. People like that. People click on it, as you can see. This is just the stats from the last 30 days, and this was published a year ago.
Oh wow. Yes, that's
The
amazing.
past 30 days is bringing 203 clicks. So that's pretty good. And that's only one photo from that wedding. That wedding had plenty of traffic.
Yeah,
So
that was actually another question that I was going to have with talking about like altering descriptions and things. How many um, how many pins do you typically use to point toward a single blog post, especially on these like image heavy blog posts?
since um, usually the wedding in general in the wedding industry, we try to do it image heavy because that's what brides are looking for, visual inspiration, right? That they can take and alter for their own wedding. So I use probably between 15 and 25. That's a lot. But on my blog post that I create for my Pinterest business, I usually use between 3 and 5. So, yeah, it's a little bit different, I guess, for what you're looking for. I know I had worked with some fashion bloggers and some food bloggers before, and they also don't have that many weddings. I mean, that many photos because they are actually in. They're responsible of creating that content. So taking those pictures is not always. You can have how many pictures of a dish can you take? You cannot
Yes.
take, you know, that's kind of difficult. And same thing for fashion. If you're going to talk about a specific look, there's just so many photos that you can take of that look. 25 sounds very unrealistic, but for our industry it works really well. I honestly recommend to have at least 3 pictures if you are on that niche of education or anything like that, service based. If you are on something more like a food or fashion blogging or something like that, then you can have, I'm going to say between 5 and 10. And if you're in an industry similar to what I do, which is weddings and feature other people's work, then you can have as many as 25.
For all of those, especially when it's on the upper end of like 25 different pins, different images, are those descriptions all different?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So, for instance, for this wedding, I try to put a picture of the bouquet. If the bouquet is like really amazing, maybe I will put two, but I try to feature as many details as possible. So there's going to be a cake, there's going to be a bouquet, there's going to be a picture of the bridesmaids. So all those are going to have different descriptions. But what I try to keep consistent is using the same keywords on all of them. So Napa and elegant wedding will go in, Napa inspired and elegant wedding will go in all of them at some level. But I always focus, of course, on describing every single photo. That's the most important thing that you can do on Pinterest, describing the photo to the most detail that you can, and incorporating the keywords in a natural way. It's also very important.
Well, I can tell you, you are really, really good at that. And obviously the results are proving that as well. I'm geeking out a little bit because I used to be in the fashion industry. And so all of the details I wanted to see stuff from every angle, every single element. So yes, Pinterest was my friend back then. Pinterest was brand new back when I was in the fashion industry. So anyway, I'm geeking out a little bit. Let's look at this third pin that you've got. What can you tell me about this one?
Okay, so what I can tell you about this one was a super short blog post. Okay, so I found this photo and I found another photo that I'm like, those are so beautiful. I want to use them somehow. So I'm like, okay, what do they have in common? These two photos that I really want to use. What keywords are trending on Pinterest that I can use to bring these two pictures together? And then I come out with, okay, so rustic, and I put rustic. I cannot read the
And a touch of glamour. So I'll go ahead and read the description here. Rustic wedding ideas with a touch of glamour from Belle the magazine. Since the rustic wedding theme is so trendy right now, I thought, why not bring you a few rustic ideas with a side of glamour?
So rustic and glamour were trending, and I was like, okay, these are perfect because they're both rustic and both glamorous. So let's just research a few more pictures from past weddings that I had featured and put them all together and do a little roundup post. And the blog post text was probably 100 words. It was a super short paragraph, and it was just mainly photos that feature rustic and glamorous ideas. And that's all I did. And as you can see, it worked out so good. So yeah, and that's one of the things I really recommend for my students is if whenever you don't have content and you want to create content, doing a blog post is a great idea. And don't overthink it. Just write something short, something that really is going to resonate with your audience. It doesn't have to be lengthy. I would rather have two blog posts or at least one blog post with 100 words than no blog post because you couldn't write something. You have writer's block and you couldn't come up with something with 300 words, right? So this is a perfect example of how that is really, really key to have success on Pinterest. Just have content out there.
I love that so much. I'm so with you. I actually run a whole publication on Medium, which is a platform for readers and writers, a social media platform. And the requirement is that you write something that is 100 words, period. You can't, give or take a couple, but no more. You have to make every word count. And sometimes it's actually harder to write shorter and keep it all concise. But like I said, I'm right with you there with putting out something is way more important than putting out the perfect thing. Medium, for example, will tell you, a 3-minute read is ideal. So aim for that 3-minute read. And that's more, that's, I think, just shy of, no, just over 1,000. I don't remember. See, I don't worry about it too much. Supposedly the 3-minute read is what's ideal, but I have a publication that's just 100 words. There are a couple other publications out there that are just shorter pieces, poems, things like that. It ultimately depends on your audience. If my audience might be disappointed if they clicked over and I only had 100 words on a topic, if they're looking for some in-depth tutorial and teaching opportunity. Your audience wants those pictures. And so focusing on what they want and only writing enough to really convey that is perfect. On the other hand, my audience sometimes loves the 100 words, obviously. I have a whole publication with it. And one of the things that I've done, I did fit a tutorial into 100 words. And the whole point of that tutorial was stop overthinking and just go write. so yes, exactly. I'm so with you there. The other thing that I wanted to draw out about this pen is the wonderful way that you drew inspiration. That's another great way to overcome writer's block when you don't know what to write, is to just start with one little concept, one place to look. So the two places that you brought up was pictures, images that you, there were three things that I noticed from your description here. Pictures that you hadn't used, but you wanted to. And so you figured out, okay, how can I create something based on this? And then the classic and the consistent thing is that you're looking at those trending words on Pinterest. You're not always trying to take a blog post and go, okay, now how can I use keywords to point to this blog post? You're actually starting with the keywords and writing something using those keywords like prompts. And then the other thing that you did was pull from things that you posted in the past and did this roundup. And so you had opportunity to pull images that you had used before to grow the article, to bulk it out. And I know I've done the same thing with the text as well, where I take something, I actually just did it this week. I took my best performing article on Medium from 3 years ago, I think, 2 years ago maybe, and wrote a similar article where I took the topic of that article, then I went and checked SEO keywords on Google and chose a title based on that, and then wrote a whole new article, similar topic, and it was able to cross-link. You know, you can do all of this cross-linking to old content to bring it back, and really, I have no excuses for writer's block anymore. If I don't know what to write, you've got these different places to pull from, your own stuff, other people's stuff. I could go on and on.
I recently did a master class for my students on blogging because they have been asking me. I have been giving them tips here and there. I'm just going to put it all together and just show them how they can come up with blog posts so easily with what they have. And again, they don't have to write these lengthy things. Pinterest doesn't care about the length. If their purpose is SEO or other stuff, I'm probably not the best person to advise them on that. But for the purpose of being successful on Pinterest, reusing that content that you already have to create blog posts is, I think, like an amazing tool.
Exactly. Yep. Totally with you there. Also, I love this image. That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to jump over here to, you said this was the oldest pin that we're featuring today.
This probably, it's going to be 2 years. If it's older, yeah, it's going to go into 2 years since I published this blog post. And this is actually a blog post that I created for a client of mine. So they continue coming to buy blog posts from our publication because Pinterest is driving traffic continuously to their old blog post, and they are like, oh my God, I'm getting so much traffic to my side from your side. So it's bringing me money as we speak.
That's Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about that. So that did they come on and create a guest post or
We write the blog post. I like to write them so they are more organically integrated with the rest of the content on the site. So it doesn't seem like a like something, you know, totally fake and that we are just publishing because they paid us. So they come. Usually, we write a blog post based on their guidelines. We send them a draft. They approve the draft or make changes, and then we publish it with their permission. And then we start pushing it. Most of my clients are in the bridal fashion industry, so most of my clients are bridal designers. So we push it on Pinterest, and it really, really works really, really well for them, like extremely well. Bridal fashion is one of my biggest things on Pinterest, but it's also not only for me. In general, Pinterest is a great place for weddings and wedding dresses. And there's other niches that really work good with Pinterest. Is probably not as good for everybody, but weddings or recipes or do-it-yourself projects, that's the perfect market for us.
absolutely. Yes. So somebody's seeing your pin, clicking over, reading your article, and then clicking over to this designer to see more. Yeah. All right.
Or buy the dress.
And
If they are
yeah,
like, "Oh, I love this dress, where can I buy it? Or can I just go to the designer's page and buy it from there?"
perfect. So okay, I'll read this off. Moonlight Couture Wedding Dresses Fall 2019 Bella Magazine. With a blend of gorgeous style and romantic drama, Moonlight Couture Wedding Dresses Fall 2019 is an exquisite bridal collection. Love it.
Very simple.
Yeah, super simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Those keywords are there. You're writing both with the keywords in mind, but you're writing with people in mind. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not Wish where you're trying to pack as many keywords that might possibly be semi-related into your descriptions, but you're writing like a real person. You sound like a real person when I'm reading it. You know, it sounds like a real person wrote it, not a SEO bot or something like that. And then, but at the same time, you're thinking, okay, what is somebody going to be putting into the search bar? What tags or like suggestions, those trending suggestions, are people going to be clicking? Beautifully done, beautifully done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I always try to use the keywords. But again, I do it the opposite way. I go and see
Right.
what was trending, and then I include them on the blog post. So when they go to Pinterest, they're already there. They're already included there. So it doesn't work the other way around. And I think that has been a key for us and the success we had on Pinterest is that we first do our research on Pinterest, and then based on that, we create the content for us, not the other way around.
Yeah,
Uh,
not just the pin content, but the actual
the
pillar content, the actual core content.
Yeah, and then it's also important to notice that we are not the only ones pinning from our publication. So when our readers pin from our publication, they already pull all those keywords with every single pin. So
That's a
it
very
works.
important point.
Basically have like brand ambassadors in Pinterest working for us because we give them the content already optimized for them.
That's so awesome. Did you have anything else to add specifically about this pin?
Um, what can I write about this pin? Well, one of the things that I really wanted to touch on is the fact that we actually 2 years ago or a season before this dress for the specific client, we published a picture of a dress that was very similar, and it had a lot of traction on Pinterest. So whenever they send me this collection, I'm like, oh, this dress is so similar than the other one. Let's try to get as many angles of this dress and try to put it at the top of the blog post and give it like a lot of attention. So I used information that I had before, in order to create the success for these blog posts. So that's very important. And I use that not only visually, not only with pictures that I know that had worked before, but I always go back to my analytics and see what's working and what's not working. Not only on Pinterest, because Pinterest only gives you analytics for 90 days, but also on my Google Analytics on my website, and see what Pinterest is bringing us in order to create more of that content for my viewers and my readers. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great little tip that I hope people don't just skim over, because that is so vital and so important. Like we were talking about, it's another way to overcome that writer's block of, well, what do I write about?
Exactly.
Well, what was successful before? Look at that. Do more of what works. Do
Yeah.
more of what works. On that, I wanted to share one more thing. Going back to this Napa-inspired elegant wedding pin here, we've talked about multiple ways to overcome writer's block when you don't know what to write about. But a lot of times, it's not so much not knowing what to write about. We've talked about there's all kinds of ideas everywhere if you just start looking for them. But then when you sit down, how do I write about them? Okay, I've got these keywords. What do I say about them? How do I write something that's actually compelling? And so one of the things that we teach in our Thoroughbred Entrepreneur program is story templates. And this is not swipe copy. This is not fill in the blank, copy and paste this. Because ultimately, that's not what you want, because that's going to make you sound like us, right? If we tell you, write this, fill in the blanks, switch out your keywords, that's not going to work. Like you were saying, you don't even have necessarily a guest poster come in. You want to write because it's in your voice, and your people know when it's not genuine, when it's not you and your authenticity. And so we want to support people in that way. So we've created these templates. And the best thing about these templates is they're not just things that we have created and designed. These are taken from copy that works. And I wanted to bring up this pin in particular because I can show you just in this single sentence description, this single sentence that has been pulled from your blog post, how you've used one of the templates that we teach without knowing it. And this is one of the reasons it works so well. So, like I said, these templates help you to know not just what to write, but how to write it so that you can really, really pack a punch and be able to repeat these successes that you've done with just your gut. But hopefully this can help some of your people as well to understand how to repeat your success, not just with the keywords, but taking this a step further. So I'll read the description again. With only great food, great music, and great wine on their wish list, these foodies delivered on all fronts with a gorgeous Napa-inspired wedding. Okay, single sentence.
Yes.
And you used a 3-part template that we teach, and we call it the persuasive template, which is going to be great for pins that you want to lead clicks, right? Persuade them to come on and click. So first of all, the first step of the persuasive method is to make an emotional connection. So great food, great music, great wine, and wish list are these key words that have this emotional pull to them. A bride reading this is going to say, well, I've got certain things on my wish list. How do I make sure that I get them all in there? A bride is going to say, oh, I want my guests to walk away from my wedding saying that was great. There was great food. There was great wine. There was great music. That emotional connection that the bride goes, yes, me too. And then the second step of the persuasive method is a practical application. And so you have these foodies delivered on all fronts. So you're promising this practical application, not just saying, oh, they did it, but they did it on all fronts. And it implies that if you click over, you can do this too. There's that implied promise. You don't have to be clickbaity, and you can do it too. It's very real and genuine, and just subtly takes them on this journey of, oh, I want that. Maybe I can do it too, if you're going to show me more. And then finally, the third step of the persuasive method is a paradigm shift. So this is where the mindset shifts so that somebody actually acts. They're not just absorbing information, because people can absorb practical information all day long and never do anything with it. And so the paradigm shift is where you shift their mindset just enough to actually get them to act. And so you have this with, first of all, just the gorgeous Napa inspired wedding is there's this subtle paradigm shift of they had inspiration from somewhere. It wasn't just this broad, like, I want to my guests to walk away and say that was great. They actually chose an inspiration. It's very specific. And so once again, it's promising, like, oh, if I can find my inspiration, then I can do this too, maybe. And so they, once again, that we were talking about this being kind of a niche with having Napa in there and the foodie. That's where some of the shift comes in. Like, well, maybe if I narrow down my focus from just elegant, maybe I can do this too. And so there's these subtle things. They're not necessarily, they wouldn't say that.
I also like the word all fronts, because now I'm telling you, if you click here, you're going to get it all. You don't have to go anywhere. In every single front, you're going to get the inspiration that you need.
Right. Yes. So big promise there without being clickbaity. You're not writing a description that says, click here and you'll get inspiration for every element of your wedding. That's ultimately not what people want. They want to be like this successful bride, this beautiful, elegant bride. They don't want you to tell them that they can be successful. And that's the power of story too. You've told a story here, not created a headline, not created clickbait. You've told a story. And so that's why we call them story templates, because they work so well that way. The other little bit of this paradigm shift is that right under this, you have your Belle the Magazine wedding dresses and decorations. And just the overall format of presenting this on Pinterest is you want them to click over. And so the paradigm shift that you're subtly inspiring through this little journey of this single sentence story is click for more. You don't have to say it, but it's there. People are gonna click for more. People obviously have clicked for more without you having this super obvious call to action. Yeah. So that was something that I had to add, and seeing those templates.
That makes total sense. And sometimes people ask me, like, what is it? What makes them click? And I'm like, well, to me, it's the image and the title, but how you presented the description or the text, it makes so much sense that people are actually clicking on these. And I thought of that. So yeah, thank you.
Well, now when people ask, you can say, okay, go to this podcast episode.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So we're going to need to wrap this up soon here. So what is the number one thing? We've covered so much in this episode today. What is the number one thing that you want our listeners, our viewers, to remember and walk away with from this episode?
One of the things that I always tell my students is Pinterest is a game of consistency. So you have to continue putting your work there. So it has to be a daily thing. Hopefully you have a scheduler so you don't have to work every day on it. So creating the content, again, is going to be super key to your success, and putting it on Pinterest, of course. But I think what we said about the blog post, and just not overthink it, and just get ideas, recycle the content that you already have, and do a 3-minute read, like you said, with 100 words, and make sure you have content to put on Pinterest. And like I said, like I mentioned, just put 15 photos in one blog post with 100 words. And there you go. There is a number one thing you need to take from here.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and bringing these pins to our podcast. I've had a great time, and I hope our listeners have as well.
Me too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at you can call me Alex B. And online, you can go to the PinterestClientFactory.com. That's my website.
Perfect. If people want more information, you talked about your students and who you teach. Are they going to find that at the PinterestFactory.com?
The PinterestClientFactory.com.
The Pinterest Client Factory. That'll be in the description. So you can just click over if you're listening here. And that's how you can get some more information and meet Alex online.
Also go to you can call me Alex.com and you will also find me there. So they both have the information that you would need.
Perfect. I'll include those in the description so that people will be able to find you. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. You have been a wonderful guest. Speaking of guests, I'll shift to talking to our listeners for a second here. And if you have somebody that you admire who has been really successful in your eyes, it doesn't even have to be like millions and billions and super popular or anything like that, but they just really connect with you through what they write, emails or online. You see that we've focused on Pinterest today. Leave a comment and tell us who you would like us to invite on this podcast so that we can pick apart and learn their secrets of their emails, their pins, their social media posts. Nominate somebody. We'd love to invite them on. Thank you for listening. Thank you one more time, Alex, for coming on. It has been a wonderful, wonderful time. We'll see you next time.